Regular night. We probably went to bed pretty late. I think it was around 10.
I went up to bed and was laying there reading.
I'm sure I was asleep as soon as my head hit the pillow.
It was very warm, so I had the doors open.
It was like a normal evening, so I left the door unlocked.
I didn't put the board in the sliding glass door.
I'm sure that I had the sliding glass door locked.
I heard loud footsteps coming up the stairs.
And the next thing I knew, there was someone standing above me trying to wake me up.
I had duct tape on my eyes.
He had penny house on his face.
I really hate that I don't know what he looks like. I couldn't see where I was.
My heart was just pounding so
He
fast.
had a knife.
Right away, he threatened to slit my throat.
He would slit my throat.
If I didn't stop fighting him, he would go and kill my girls.
Kill my
I
children.
was just trying to do whatever I could to
whatever I could
survive.
I need to do harder to survive.
Every single rape kit represents a person waiting for answers.
The biggest reason we're doing this is to bring these survivors some justice. These are some cases, aren't they?
Yeah, we're working on our first serial case here.
With 10 attacks in 2 states.
You know, these cases occurred between 1991 and 2001.
The attacker had specific things that he did. Sliding glass doors were big for him. And he moved around to these little neighboring towns, which made things difficult from an investigation perspective because it was all different police departments working on each individual case. And it's difficult for these agencies to communicate with each other. And so one of the reasons I'm most excited is that we were able to help pull together a task force so that we could work together as a team in looking at these cases.
I think the agencies are in a place where these DNA profiles are encoded. They're not hitting on a known suspect. So we really have to go back to square one.
Somebody that commits these kinds of horrific, terrorizing crimes, that kind of person doesn't stop. Hi, Casey Garrett.
Nice to meet you. I'm Kyle.
Alicia O'Neill.
Alex Davis. Alicia?
Thanks for having us here.
No problem.
I've worked at Clearfield for just over 15 years. The fact that this guy got away with so many of these cases, I obviously want to catch the guy.
These are horrible cases. I can't believe it.
And just way too many victims, so come on back and we'll set up shop.
We never had the resources to have all these investigators get together, but now with Casey and Alicia here, we can actually sit down as a team and just do everything we can to solve this case.
Hey, Tom,
how are you?
you?
Nice to see you.
We're bringing in Tom McDevitt, retired Philadelphia police officer, to help us on this case. He was a detective in their sex crimes bureau for many, many years. How's Philly?
Busy as usual.
He is so detail-oriented. He will remember something from the case file that nobody even noticed. Kyle, you're Clearfield.
Yes.
You're Clearfield, and you are Layton.
Yes,
okay.
ma'am.
So over the next 2 weeks, we're going to work together with officers from each area where this rapist attacked women so that we can try to piece everything together.
This is Travis.
Hi,
how are you?
Casey Garrett. Joining the task force is Detective Travis Gerfen of the Ogden City Police Department. And have you been communicating with Tim Robinson?
Yeah, he will definitely be here and fill us in on his stuff.
Sergeant Tim Robinson of Rock Springs, Wyoming Police Department started working on the first documented case back in 1991. Why don't you start, Kyle? Were you the one that took these cases over?
I just transferred from patrol to investigations as a sergeant, and I was given this folder and said, hey, we need to look at this again.
Investigators believe that this rapist struck 11 victims in 10 attacks in several cities across 2 states.
He's been methodical and quiet and calm.
He's super stealthy. I don't think in any of these cases does anybody say that they were awakened by a noise or whatever. They all say they were awakened by him. He also is using some type of cloth or clothing to tie the people up or binding them in some form, and always trying to cover their eyes with either duct tape or clothing.
Which is all consistent in all the cases also.
And another part of the MO is he did sexually assault vaginally, anally, and orally. And in most of these cases, it was for hours and not 15 minutes.
This guy is a true predator and an animal.
Since we have so many victims, we wanted to start getting some of this stuff up on the whiteboards. We'll go in chronological order.
So the oldest one then is going to start with the Rock Springs case.
Jennifer was 14 years old. All of these serial rape cases that we know of occurred between 1991 and 2001. This is Jane. Police have been able to connect all of these cases to one attacker. This was also a DNA match case?
Correct.
By either matching DNA in the survivor's rape kit and Peggy, or because the rapist had the same MO or mode of operating, so that the police could conclude that all of the attacks were done by the same rapist.
She reports that somebody broke into her apartment, had a knife, had a flashlight, put tape or something similar to tape over her eyes.
Even though we believe that there are other attacks out there that we don't know of, 2001 is really the last known case that we're able to work with.
If this guy's done this many, I couldn't imagine there's not more.
Oh, undoubtedly there's more.
But then again, I mean, the last one could have scared him, just realized, hey, I'm going to get caught.
Or he could have died or gone to prison before CODIS existed. Nowadays, anybody arrested for a felony generally has their DNA entered into the database. But there are many people sitting in prison who could have been sentenced before those laws were enacted. Making this even more complicated is the fact that a lot of states have different timelines for going back and getting that DNA.
Definitely have a long ways to go, but a lot of information that hopefully we can bring together and get some justice for these victims after all these years.
When you're investigating a crime this huge, it's almost impossible to know where to start. And while investigators will ultimately interview all of the victims, they're going to start with the last known attack in 2001, where he held this entire family hostage. It has a lot of similarities in the MO matching the other cases, but it's unique in the boldness of the attack in that there were multiple victims.
This night, somebody broke in my home. He came in with a gun and he fired my husband. I don't want to say that my daughter was in my home.
I was 19 years old. I was already sleeping, and I heard my mom's voice saying, you know, Rosana, wake up. There is someone in the house who's assaulting us. He said, turn around, don't look at me. So I just looked down, and they went to my brother's room, but in my brother's room, it was my uncle sleeping.
And when I open my eyes, I see the gun in my head.
He told us to go inside my parents' room, and I saw my dad tied up. And he told my uncle to lay on the floor, and he tied my eyes. And he told me to undress. That's when I knew he was gonna rape me.
And during this, your mom was assaulted too, right?
Yes.
Everything that I do, I want to try to save her, but it was impossible.
Sometimes he touched my leg, and I feel so worried, scary, because I was thinking that he's going to rape me.
I heard the door open, and that's when I knew my brother was coming.
I came home at 2:15. I heard noises, so I went upstairs. When I opened the door, I saw this figure that I didn't recognize. He was molesting my mom, touching her, my sister giving him a blowjob. At that moment, I had a gun in my face. The gun was in my forehead, and he told me to close my eyes.
Did you see his face?
I saw him literally, there was a second.
This is straight out of like a horror movie.
He tied me up with a tie.
Did he blindfold you too?
Yeah, that was the first thing he did. He seemed really calm. He knew nobody was coming. That's probably why he was not nervous.
He got his clothes on, he handed my clothes to me, and then he gave me a kiss and went off.
When he gave you the kiss, did he say anything?
No.
Or just...
No, he just gave me a kiss on my lips and he left.
Jeez. These cases are so sadistic and so life-altering for these victims. Just when you think you've seen it all, you see something worse.
My niece, she was very damaged. We were very damaged.
For me, it's hard because every night when I open my door, I feel that somebody's behind the door.
It's okay.
I'm okay.
Ugh, bastard.
Went up to bed and was laying there reading, and I heard somebody coming up the stairs. When he told me he'd kill my children if I made a noise, I immediately put my hand on my dog that was in bed with me, and I started praying. A calm came over me, and I honestly think that's why I wasn't hurt.
We've helped bring together multiple police agencies from 2 states and several cities to work on this serial rape case involving 10 attacks over a period of 10 years.
It's like you think he's watching these people.
He definitely preferred apartment complexes. We're centering everything here in Clearfield, Utah, because they had 5 attacks occur here. And the Clearfield Police Department has developed a DNA profile from the suspect that they developed in their original investigation.
We already got a DNA warrant already.
Oh, the John Doe warrant.
The warrant is out there, so if we do match the DNA, he can be in handcuffs.
A John Doe warrant is a warrant for an unknown suspect who can be identified by some characteristic, like DNA taken from a crime scene, or in our case, a rape kit. Once the John Doe warrant was issued, it essentially stopped the clock on the statute of limitations for those cases that we were able to link through DNA. While there's currently no statute of limitations in Utah for these kinds of sexual assaults, at the time of these attacks, the statute was sometimes as short as 4 years.
What I'd like to do now is just talk about who you have as possible known suspects.
His name is James. He presently lives in Georgia, but he's got ties to Utah, specifically Clearfield and Ogden. On the night of the assault in Laramie in '96, K-9 tracked a scent from the victim's residence to the parking lot of the Motel 6. So Laramie went ahead and collected a registrar at the time of the offense and submitted the names.
What was it that stood out about his name?
He's lived in Clearfield. He's lived in Ogden. Clearfield and Layton were right next to each other.
We find out he used to work previously at the Freeport Center.
That's in Clearfield.
That's correct.
And it's also in close proximity,
in close
right,
proximity
to these apartments.
This is the Freeport Center, and then those 6 cases are within 5 minutes.
You know, one thing we've left off our list was the similarities to the composite. Rosanna's brother, Elias, was the only person that was able to get a glimpse of the suspect's face, and from that, police generated a composite.
And his photo really does look a lot like the composite.
The other important thing, too, is he leaves. Appears that the sexual assault stopped.
Seemed to stop. When did he leave?
January of '02.
Our last known rape was 2001, and then he leaves in early 2002. Yeah, only 6 months later. Getting a warrant and getting a buckle from him would really just be ideal.
I mean, I thought I knew sadistic, but nobody I've ever dealt with had anything on this guy. When you're dealing with a suspect as sick and twisted as this offender, you need to get inside their head and understand how they planned out these attacks.
So this is the sliding glass door?
Yeah.
Yep.
So we've come to an apartment that's almost identical in layout to the apartment where Rosanna's family was attacked.
I just think he comes walking through from out here. You walk around, you walk up like this, nobody's around. You try the door. If the door opens, you go in. I always like to go back to a crime scene, especially in a cold case. So he would have took the first bedroom then. It makes you understand about what happened.
And then they were all immediately, blindfolded, tied up. In Rosanna's family's case, when Elias got home, he indicated that the door was sort of just ajar. And
he took a peek. He saw what was going on. It's like, wait a minute, what the hell?
And then as he come back, boom, he was right at him.
He was in the middle of forcing somebody to perform oral sex on him and was able to still respond that quickly and without being shaken.
Yeah, that's not your normal criminal. Normal criminal's out the door. This is a person that seemed to study rape. He just continued to advance in his method of controlling the victims. He's a very dangerous person that has to be caught.
How was your trip in from Rock Springs?
It was good.
Today, Sergeant Tim Robinson is joining our team. He's the one that worked on the very first case that we know of. Who's got the updates? Now that we have our task force pulled together, did you call the Davis County lab?
Come in here. You sit right here.
We're pooling our resources to interview survivors.
I woke up to his hand on my face.
He said, don't scream or I'll kill your kids in the basement.
He's like, oh, don't worry, I won't hurt you. So in one way, it's like he was so violent, but on the other hand, he acted like he was doing me a favor.
He proceeded to tell me, he's like, he realized 1 in every 4 women get raped in their lifetime. Look at it this way, you've had yours.
Oh my gosh. We're scouring the wealth of evidence collected over the years to look for new details.
I think we have to expand the cases we look at.
And we're searching through online databases for any new information.
Got off the phone with Casey Warren, who's a lieutenant with Riverdale Police Department. They entered a case into VICAP.
VICAP stands for the Violent Criminal Apprehension Program. It's a database that allows us to compare similarities in unsolved cases.
Was the assault the same?
Duct tape over the eyes, knife against the throat.
And how was entry gained?
Through a sliding glass door. Victim, she's 11 years old.
Holy shit.
And what year was this?
1992.
It's exciting to think that we have another case to work because that means new leads, but unfortunately, it's another victim. Yeah, we definitely need to talk to her. Our time here has led to a new case from 1992 that we think may be linked to our serial rapist.
Nicole, if you want to come in and have a seat.
Nicole was only 11 at the time of the attack, but the details are very similar to the MO of our suspect.
And if you want to start and kind of tell us what happened that night, okay?
I slept in the front room, which was right next to the sliding glass door. I remember waking up. He came over, put his hand over my mouth and told me not to scream. About that time, my stepdad got up and flipped on the light in the kitchen. So he put a knife up to my neck and told me not to make a sound. My stepdad went back to bed. He put duct tape over my eyes and he took me to his car. I remember he had the same type of bucket seats as my stepdad, and the shifter was in the middle, and it was a two-door car. He took off my shirt. I remember him kissing all over me, just everywhere. I just was praying to, please just let me go, just stop, just stop. When he was done, I asked him why he did that to me, and I don't remember if he even gave me an answer. He took me home.
Did you open the door yourself?
I did. I do remember when I shut the door, I felt the glass. So it didn't have a frame around the glass.
This car could be our key.
Absolutely.
I feel like I'm very, very lucky that he brought me home and didn't kill me.
There's a show of hands. People would like to kill this guy.
Oh.
Hi, Nicole.
How are things?
Yeah, I'm nervous.
Don't be. Don't be. A lot of good is coming out of all of this. Even though we don't have an offender yet, it is so important to be able to actually link these together because each individual case gives us more evidence.
We're starting to see the picture here where we can actually identify this guy and hopefully put him behind bars.
These guys, they're going to work on your case until they find an answer for you. They'll do everything they possibly can.
I just really want him behind bars. I've been carrying this for so long, and all of my family just keeps saying, oh, just get over it, just get over it. And it's like, but he's out there somewhere.
Right.
It's important to us to link Nicole's case through DNA, and we were just so thrilled when we found out that they had found her rape kit after all these years. The good news is we can take the kit to Sorensen, and they're going to have it analyzed very quickly for us. We know this is definitely a similar MO case. We have 2 pieces of duct tape immediately covering her eyes. There's only one real difference.
My stepdad flipped on the light in the kitchen.
I think the only reason why he removed her from the scene was probably because the light went on. Where in the other cases, they stayed there.
And he took me to his car.
She thought it was a dark color car, so it may be a black car.
The door, when the windows go up, there's no frame that it goes into. That's going to limit the number of makes and models of that kind of car.
The other interesting thing on that one is they did a canvas of the neighborhood, and I believe this is the male that lives above our victim, and it just says dark colored vehicle leaving the area about 11:30.
Oh, he's a witness.
Of a dark color vehicle, which is what she describes.
Do they have his full name?
Todd Bliss. B-L-I-S-S.
We definitely want to talk to him.
Mr. Bliss? Yeah, how are you? Sergeant Davis, Layton City Police Department.
I was coming back, getting ready to turn into the apartment complex, and there was a car coming out through the entrance side instead of the exit side. Dark colored Trans Am with a bird decal on the front end of the car. And as I hit my brakes and the guy hit his brakes, I got out of the car to check to see what was going on, and I saw somebody's head pop up with blindfolded.
That's huge.
It looked like a girl, dark, long dark hair. It looked like she was wearing pajamas, but then the guy quickly pushed the head back down and took off. The next day, the cop talked to me, and I told him about that.
Okay.
The fact that he had seen a dark-colored car speeding off around the time that Nicole would have been abducted, and that he might have seen Nicole inside of his car. This is the jackpot of all jackpots.
Did he say specifically that there was a bird on the hood?
Yes.
Eagle.
All right, looking at the Trans Am website, they started putting the bird on the hood in 71, and they stopped in 1981.
Well, that narrows it down.
Motor vehicle, how may I help you?
Is there any way to look at historical records to see who owned a Pontiac Firebird in Davis, Weber, Morgan counties during 1992?
So some of our records are purged from that far ago, but if it's been registered since then, it's possible we can pick it up.
All right, perfect. I appreciate your help, sir.
Okay, thank you.
All right, take care. How many Pontiac Firebirds could possibly be on the road?
I wouldn't think that many.
I think that's the great part about this car. It's not like finding a Chevy Cavalier.
Hi there.
Hi, Mister. I was just wondering, we wanted to talk with you just a minute.
Is there something wrong, or?
The task force has reached out to officers in Georgia to execute a warrant for James's DNA.
We just need to talk with you just a minute, and that way we can just get everything cleared up, and we'll be through in about 15 minutes.
James became a suspect after a K-9 unit tracked a scent from a crime scene to a hotel that he was staying in on the night of the attack.
You can either ride with me or you can drive up there, whichever you want to do.
Okay.
After doing workups on all of the names in the hotel registry,
I'll be 10-8. Subject to be following me back to PD.
police concluded that James was the only guest there that night who really had possible links to some of the other crime scenes.
How you doing, Mr.?
I've never been in this situation before. What I have is I have a search warrant for your DNA to take buccal swab. And then I will give you a number for the investigator up there, and then he can tell you all about it. Okay.
We want to make sure that somebody takes a DNA sample from James, that we process it, and we're able to either identify or conclusively exclude him forever from this investigation.
Ms. Davis.
Well, Mr. Davis, my name is Mr. I'm calling from Georgia.
So I'm guessing you have some questions for me as to why you called?
Yes, sir, may I be so presumptuous to ask?
We developed substantial information to obtain a search warrant, and those crimes are in regards to sexual assaults.
Oh, my gosh.
Okay.
I'm a good boy. I had a problem with my poisons. I drank too much, but I never hurt anybody. I never did anything bad. I've got absolutely nothing to hide from you guys at all, so I'll help you any way I can.
Okay. Well, Mr. I really do appreciate you taking the time to talk with me.
Thank you, Mr. Davis.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
They sound awfully cooperative.
I mean, you don't know if somebody that's this controlling and this, you know, would be cooperative.
I don't think he dismissed my suspicions to him being a potential suspect.
I was 18. I had my first apartment, and I had both my girls. They were really little. 2 weeks before, we were sleeping with the windows open, and I just had this really funny feeling that felt like somebody was watching me. The sliding glass door, that's where he came in. He did threaten if I didn't stop fighting him, he would go and kill my girls. I clutched onto those two every night after that and didn't sleep alone. We didn't know who this guy was. We didn't know if he would come back.
Hello, this is Cammie.
Hey, Cammie, how are you? It's Alicia and some very, very anxious detectives.
Hi, Alicia.
After a week in Clearfield, Utah, investigating a heinous serial rapist, we've discovered a possibly related MO case involving an 11-year-old. So you have some news for us on the Riverdale case?
We got a mixture of an unknown male and the victim herself. It is the same unknown male as what we had detected on the Clearfield PD cases.
We knew it, but we are very, very happy to have the confirmation, Cammie. Thank you so much. Matching Nicole's case through DNA keeps her case alive because there's a John Doe warrant for this guy already. So he'll always be prosecuted, and Nicole will always be able to testify against him when that happens.
That's really super news.
Motor vehicles, may I help you?
Nicole's case is now definitely linked to the serial rapist, so now we're pretty excited to get the results of that search for that suspected vehicle.
I got the spreadsheet on the Pontiac Firebird that you want. There's 2,586 records.
Well, we will search it, I guess.
I will get it sent over to you right now.
Great, you're awesome. Thank you very much.
You're sure welcome.
It's going to take a lot of manpower to search through all those results. But if we can find the owner of the Firebird in Nicole's case, we might just find the person responsible for all of these attacks.
I think that we have to talk about having a press conference.
That's your call, Kyle.
I think we could totally do that.
The public can be a great help when you're needing to find new information on a cold case.
We need to make sure that we do have TV from Rock Springs and Laramie.
Like, one of the things that they always ask for is that there be, like, new information, and you have that. I mean, you just connected this 11-year-old. He's a much more prolific serial rapist than any of us could have ever realized when we first read this file, even.
Is there any disadvantage of putting everything out?
I see no reason to hold back.
He made a mistake somewhere. He had to have.
The reason we've called you out here today is we want to talk about some cult rape cases that we've...
With virtually all of the news stations and newspapers in attendance, I think our reach to the public could potentially reach thousands.
He targeted apartments that had sliding glass doors. We do have a description of a vehicle.
This press conference could lead to many new tips and leads that could take us in some new directions.
We'd also like to ask if there is any victims out there that never did come forward, that you contact your local police department. Does anybody have any questions?
What can you say about the victims? I mean, all these years later.
I got to tell you, these women are so strong, and not only the women, but the men that were in the house when this happened. You know, it's not an individual trauma, it's a family trauma. But it is very plausible that he's still out there, and somebody is going to recognize this person. Thanks a lot, guys. Just FYI, I called dispatch, and they've already sent several people calling in with information to my voicemail.
You're kidding.
Upstairs, so
wow.
I think we're going to be some busy people. Sergeant Jeffries, Clearfield Police.
I really honestly think it's my uncle. He's been accused of raping my niece. He breaks in houses through patio doors. I just know it's him. He looks very familiar to a person I know. He looks similar to a tenant that I used to rent. He looks like my brother. He forced me to have sex with him when I was like 12.
So we need a plan. Maybe 2 people can listen to them and then triage and then start following up on the ones that are more promising. With all of the information we're getting, we can go out and try to get buccal swabs from the most promising leads. With any luck, one of these tips will lead us to our rapist.
Clearfield Police Department, Detective Gerfen.
Hi, I'm retired from Davis County Sheriff. I'm calling about your rape case that's going on. I'm thinking it had to be late 80s. I got called out on a home invasion. An 11, 12-year-old girl that was pulled off of the family's master bedroom where she was sleeping.
Okay.
The thing that really kind of struck me was a sliding glass door in an apartment complex.
Mm-hmm.
This is the same kind of entry. And short time afterwards, the highway patrol stopped the guy's car.
Do you remember what kind of vehicle he was driving?
I don't. He was arrested. The county attorney wouldn't go with the charges. We just didn't have enough.
All right, well, we'll try and track down that report.
See ya. Bye.
Wow. The interesting thing about this case is even though it was an interrupted attack and no sexual assault actually occurred, it really does seem to match our MO. But what's even more important is that the suspect was actually booked in, so hopefully we can find his name.
Let's find that report, because, I mean, that sounds like it could be our guy, and they might have ID'd him, and he got away with it, and he just got bolder.
So now we're going to have to search through the microfiche.
This is good. At least it gives us something. We have a great new lead from our tip line, so we're going to head over to the Davis County Sheriff's Office. Well, we're looking for the prints and the offense report to try to find the file involving the 1989 attack.
My system, it's not finding it for whatever reason. I've got that match, but it actually shows to a different guy.
One of the biggest challenges of cold cases is trying to find old information. But thankfully, with good digging and good help from Bob Thompson, we were able to find that file.
Case file 1989.
Really, we appreciate it so much.
Thanks so much, dude.
So, the tip came in from a retired detective from Davis County. Now that we've got the offense report, we can see how closely this suspect matches the MO of our serial rapist. Let's get David on the board, okay? It happened back in 1989. He entered through a sliding glass door of a condo with vertical blinds. They all woke up. He starts dragging her down the stairs. Suddenly, he lets her go. She runs back into the bedroom, locks herself in there, and calls the police. He flees, Police stop a fleeing car.
At first, he denies ever being around the complex. The detective says, well, how did we get your fingerprint off the sliding glass door then? And then all of a sudden, oh, maybe I was there. And maybe I did go into the apartment.
Ultimately, he confesses to being in the condo and says that he jerked her out of her bed, hit her in the stomach, says I was so stressed out about school and work that I just felt like I needed to hit somebody.
Nobody ever wants to admit to a sexual motivation, though.
It's basically a confession.
And he was exactly how old at this time?
18. David's connected to these Utah cases because he lived near the Clearfield area at the time of these offenses. And we have this extraneous offense. But here's where it gets really interesting, you guys. He moved out of state in 2001 when our rapes stopped.
We need a swab from him.
The sister of our potential suspect died from an overdose.
What medical examiner would handle that?
It would have went through the state's medical examiner's office.
If the coroner's office has blood or tissue samples from the autopsy, boy, would that make things easier. Could one of you guys call the coroner's office and find out if there's tissue samples from the sister?
Right.
One of the ways that you can get a DNA profile and find out whether a suspect matches an unknown sample is by comparing a close relative to that sample.
Hey, Pat, how are you, sir?
Hey, good. We got a box of stuff. We don't have like a vial of blood or anything like that. We do have fingernail clippings, and we have
That's what we need.
several strands of hair.
Perfect. What we would like to do is obtain some of that evidence from you for DNA testing.
Get you whatever you need.
Awesome.
I've always had good luck with fingernail clippings. I feel good about that.
So we need to get that picked up and taken to Sorensen?
Yep.
Okay.
This is really great news.
How are you?
I'm Cami Green. Hopefully, Cami at Sorensen will be able to use David's sister's DNA to tell us whether or not David's our rapist.
Let's get Gary on the phone.
Morning, Alex.
Gary, we're kind of excited to hear the results.
We've heard that our suspect James's DNA has been processed.
Well, the profile that I got from James does not match the semen donor from the report you sent me.
Well, not exactly the news we were hoping for, Gary, but at least we can cross them off our list and shift our focus somewhere else. So,
okay.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Man, how close can you get without a hit?
But you know, it's important to have a final answer, and DNA can do that. And in this case, since we have it, it's the best way to go.
Guess we need to make a phone call to George.
All right, Mr.
Yes, Mr.
Let's call him right now.
Okay.
Mr. Alex Davis, Layton City Police Department.
Yes, sir.
I wanted to let you know that we were able to get a return on the DNA from the buccal swab that you submitted, and we are able to eliminate you as suspect in this case.
Yeah, I mean, I knew that. But
Well, you knew that, but we didn't, so.
My small little town's all a fudge about this.
Well, I'll make sure that I'm in contact with the police department to let the lieutenant know that we had eliminated you through DNA testing.
I appreciate that immensely.
You have a nice day.
You do the same.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, well, let's take care of this then. James has been completely excluded, and it's time to move on. At this point, we're trying to figure out what our next leads are going to be.
We can shift our focus.
If I were talking to a room full of survivors, the one thing that I would say to them is, this isn't your fault, and it's your life. Do not let them win. They can only win if you let them.
Did you hear back from the lab regarding the sister's DNA?
We did, and the sisters does not match our suspect, so David's off the list.
We just keep hitting dead ends in these cases, and it's so frustrating. But this investigation isn't over. We keep getting more and more tips from the press conference, and each one of those could be the lead we need to finally get this guy.
Hello. Hi. How are you? Good. Rosanna, I'm Casey Garrett. Sitting down with survivors is always very emotional for me. We want to give them a firm answer.
Well, I'd like to tell you we caught him, but we didn't.
Oh, really? Unfortunately, we weren't able to, but it's so important to let these survivors know that the investigation is not over. And really, it was the press release that generated a lot of information for us. Within an hour of it posting, we started getting calls.
These guys are just going to be working as hard as they can to just go through every one of them and see who we need to get DNA from and who we can eliminate. But it's amazing how much the public wants to help.
Well, I think from the beginning, I said I was going to forgive him. I thought to myself, what in the world did he go through in his life to be forced to do what he's doing? So I forgive him.
You have an amazing heart. Your ability to forgive is what makes you so beautiful. Because when you forgive, you release the control that the person has over you.
I have a friend that tells me, I don't know how you do it, but you fall and you always get up. And I don't know where you find the strength. And I think that's the attitude of a warrior.
This is a lot of work that we have done in these 2 weeks. I guesstimate approximately 2,500 man-hours went into these last 15 days. I mean, we don't have somebody in custody, and that's devastating to all of us, but what we do have is major progress. We found a whole nother victim in this 2-week period of all coming together, and it's a match case. And for Nicole, whose case might have been affected by the statute of limitations, now that we've got a match case, she's linked into these John Doe warrants. So her case is still alive. And Nicole's case is what gave us the car, which has helped us in the press release with more tips. We're at 150 tips in 6 days since the press release. That's a big deal. One of the things that has really been accomplished while we've been here is listening.
I mean, it's affected me in a lot of different ways that I never would have thought of, but at the same time, you know, he doesn't get to win. I have my life, I have my career.
I hope I can help someone. When I was contacted, I just felt like there was no way I could not step up and do what I needed to do.
We're just strong women in our family. I mean, it's okay to cry, it's okay to let it all out, but, you know, life still goes on and it's not the end of the world.
All of these women share a bond that unfortunately was born of a horrific event, but I believe that they can help one another in knowing that they're not alone.
Knowing that there's others out there who understand what I went through was a comfort to me.
What do you want to communicate to people that have gone through something similar?
That this wasn't their fault, and that your life take it back. Hopefully someday I might get to meet the other survivors. We would understand each other.
We all want closure. I think we all want to see this guy behind the bars. But even if it doesn't happen in front of our eyes, we still gotta believe he's already paid for it. I know that. It's in my heart. I know he's already paid for this.
And here's the other thing. For the last 20 years, he hasn't looked over his shoulder. He's looking over his shoulder right now, knowing that we're coming after him. And one of these days, we're gonna knock on his door, and he's coming with us.
Moving forward with this investigation, we've forged some very strong relationships with Clearfield, Ogden, Riverdale, Rock Springs, and Laramie. It is because we've all sat down together that these cases have been able to move forward. There's still a lot of work left to do, but I'm confident that we're going to solve this.
Police have generated age progression images of the suspect. If you have any information about these Utah or Wyoming cases, contact the Clearfield Police.